Knot, thinning, and breakage is a very common problem, especially in fine hair, and this can stop you from getting a long, healthy, natural hair and reaching your hair goals. So, I'm going to be sharing all the details on how I was able to grow my fine hair faster and also being able to have a healthy, long, natural hair. So, keep watching for all that information. So, the first thing I'm going to talk about is the product you're using on your hair, especially your shampoo. When it comes to using products, make sure you're using hydrating and moisturizing products. Keeping your hair well moisturized with hydrating products and avoiding harsh dripping shampoos to prevent dryness, which contributes to tangles. So, if you notice that you're experiencing so many knots on your hair, it has to do with the product you're using. Make sure that whatever product you're using on your hair is moisturizing your hair and not stripping your hair, which can cause your hair to be dry and can lead to breakage, thinning on your ends, split ends, and which will contribute to you not having a healthy and longer hair. When you're doing your routine, make sure you're using the right technique. Make sure you're layering your products the right way for moisture retention. Moisture is very important and it can help you stop knots, thinning, and also breakage, because if moisture is not in your hair, it will cause your hair to break. So the first thing I had to do is to actually have a good routine and be consistent with it. When it comes to my wash day routine, my moisture routine, making sure that my hair is not left dry, because once your hair is dry, it will develop to split ends and to cause your hair to break so much. And that's how you notice that your hair is looking so thin and it's getting damaged. Using the right treatment also is very important. So the first thing I would say is your products you're using, make sure they are moisturizing and also being consistent with your hair care routine. I do my wash day routine twice in a month and my moisture routine twice in a month. That means I'm doing a routine to my hair every single week, and with that, my hair doesn't stay dry and my moisture is always there. So it is very important to have moisture and good products. So, in line with moisture, that leads me to my second point, which is deep conditioning weekly. Incorporating a deep conditioning mask or treatment into your routine at least once a week to nourish and strengthen your hair strands. When it comes to my deep conditioning, I do not skip it in any single routine I'm doing. I make sure to deep condition and also add a treatment like a hair rinse to it, which it contains fenugreek, cloves, rosemary, and also hibiscus. All of this help to strengthen my hair, reduce hair loss, and also help to moisturize my hair. Especially having high porosity hair, deep conditioning is very important and it's something that you should always include in your routine because added moisture is so important. So after deep conditioning, I go in with my LOC method, which is my liquid oil and cream. The first thing I do is to go in with my leave-in conditioner. After that, I go in with my oils. I use the virgin hair fertilizer and pair it with my herbal oil. I have a video on how I make this, so I'll definitely link that for you to check out. And for my last step, I go in with shea butter to lock in that moisture. I usually just apply this on the length of my hair because it's a very thick product and I do not apply thick products directly to my scalp so that I do not clog up my scalp and limit my hair growth. And that's all for my moisture routine and my wash day routine. Moisture retention is very important and using the right techniques to lock in the moisture to your hair is also key. And how you can know the right techniques for your hair is knowing your hair porosity, and with that your moisture is locked in for a week before you can do your next routine. Another reason why your fine hair is breaking so much and you're developing thin ends is because of the way you detangle. When it comes to detangling your hair, I will always recommend that you use a product with a good sleep, and my go-to for now is flaxseed gel because it has such a good sleep and it can easily detangle your hair so well. Another very important thing is make sure that when you're detangling your hair, you're using your fingers. You can feel where the knots are in your hair and take them out carefully than just using a detangling brush that will just yank on your hair strands and cause a lot of breakage and also can cause your hair to start thinning. So also make sure that when you're detangling in sections because it's less tension on your hair when you detangle in sections, and you notice that it's easier for you to detangle when you're doing the sections than doing your whole hair at once because it can be overwhelming and you don't know when you're tugging and pulling on your hair. So just make sure that when you're detangling, make sure you use a good product that has a good sleep. Make sure you're detangling with your fingers, detangle in sections, and when you're done, put that hair in a section. With that, you notice that when you're detangling this way, you're only losing shedded hair and not actually breaking your hair. And that's how I detangle. I've noticed a huge difference when I stopped using detangling brushes on my hair, and ever since then I simply just use my fingers because honestly they're the best detangler out there. The next thing is avoid towel drying. Instead of rubbing your hair with a rough towel, gently squeeze out excess water with a cotton towel or a t-shirt. My go-to is usually a t-shirt, and I noticed that my ends do not get roughed up or tangled. And using a towel, especially a rough towel, can cause a lot of knots on your hair. So when you're drying your hair, either you air dry it or simply use a t-shirt. It's usually my go-to now, and my hair still stays hydrated and moisturized. And it's a very little mistake you're making, but you don't know how much impact it's having on your hair. If you notice constant knots on your hair, it's probably because you're using a rough towel on your hair. So make sure that you switch to a t-shirt or use a cotton towel. Protecting your hair while sleeping. This is a very common mistake. Make sure that you sleep on a silk or satin pillowcase or wear a satin bonnet or a scarf to reduce friction and minimize overnight knots. Honestly, this is a daily practice I do anytime I'm lying down on my bed, even though I'm not going to bed. I make sure I have my bonnet on or a scarf on. It's very important to protect your hair from knots and also your moisture. One thing you also need to remember is that if you're not sleeping with a bonnet, you're actually making your moisture not to last longer because it's easy for your pillowcase to absorb all that moisture. This should be a daily practice you have because honestly, you're developing a lot of single strand knots because of the friction you get on your pillowcase. So make sure that whenever you're going to bed, you have on a bonnet or a scarf. It just helps to protect your hair from knots and also help to keep your moisture to last longer. So the next thing is going to be trims. This is a very tricky thing. I do not believe in getting regular trims because honestly sometimes your hair doesn't need a trim, and if you're keeping up with your routine and your hair is healthy, most times you do not have to trim as much. But honestly, here, this was a bad case of my hair was thinning out so bad. I had a lot of split ends, and the honest solution was just to cut it off. And that's when I would actually recommend you getting a trim. I would say that make sure you know how your hair feels, how it's looking, the texture, and that's when you can tell whether you need a trim or not. But at this stage, I needed to get a trim because it was doing more damage to my hair, and my split ends were honestly running through the length of my hair and causing my hair to thin too much. So the trim was the only solution I had to getting my hair on track to retaining more length. So that's where I would say get a trim. If you don't know whether you need a trim or not, or you do not know how to do a trim yourself, I would say go to a professional that can help you with that because honestly, there's a huge difference and your hair will start thriving more. So that's when I would recommend a trim. Just make sure you're not losing unnecessary length by getting regular trims. Honestly, one best kept secret is actually stretching your hair. Stretching your hair can help with single strand not so much. Like once I started stretching out my hair, I realized that my single strand knots reduced tremendously because having a curly hair, your hair is prone to knots because of the curly state of the hair. So it's easy for your hair to get knots when you're doing a hairstyle, you're detangling, or anything that requires you touching your hair or any friction. But once your hair is stretched out, it minimizes the amount of knots you would get. So stretching out my hair before putting in a protective hairstyle has been my go-to now. I've done it for three particular hairstyles, and honestly, it's so much easier. And I've noticed a huge difference when it comes to tangling. My tangling has reduced so much when putting in a protective hairstyle with a stretched hair. There are two methods I use to stretch my hair. One is African threading, is a heatless way to stretch out your hair, and also you can do twist out and braid out to stretch out your hair also. And the next way is using a blow dryer or doing a blowout. But one thing you have to be careful of is your heat settings. Make sure that you do not develop heat damage by doing this. Make sure you're using your heat protectant and keeping your hair protected. My next point will be protective hairstyle. Reducing manipulation on your hair can stop a lot of breakage, knots, and thinning. And tucking your hair away is your best bet to reduce all of that. When it comes to protective hairstyle, there's a difference with hairstyles and protective hairstyle. So if a hairstyle is not protecting your hair, honestly it's not a protective hairstyle. And when it comes to fine hair, it's very important that you understand your type of hair. Fine hair is prone to a lot of damage, and make sure that whatever protective hairstyle you're doing is not adding any extra weight on your hair. I've made a lot of huge mistakes when it comes to my protective hairstyle. I've added a lot of extensions, done tight hairstyles, tension, frequent changing of hairstyles, and it did my hair so bad. Like my hair broke a lot and caused a lot of damage. I had to start reversing. So make sure when you're picking a protective hairstyle, make sure it is lightweight, it is protecting your hair, no tension, no manipulation when you're installing it, when you're taking it down. You have to consider all of this when you're picking a protective hairstyle. And I have a lot of videos on protective hairstyles I've tried on my fine hair that has grown my hair so much. So I'll link all the videos for you to check out. But you can see all the hairstyles I've tried, making sure that your installation process is tension free, is easy, and also making sure that you're keeping your protective hairstyle for the right amount of time. I have a 3 month hair growth challenge where I use protective hairstyles to retain more length and grow my natural hair. I realized that keeping your hair long term is a way that you can retain more length and reach your hair goals faster. So I keep my protective hairstyle for 3 months, and it has made my hair, like, reducing manipulation is one way to actually retain more length. And I've been able to hack hair growth process and length retention. So if you want to join my 3 month hair growth challenge, you can subscribe because I drop weekly updates on everything I'm doing, and you're never too late to join the challenge. And we're currently on the second month of the challenge, so you can always join at any point. So in summary, I would say your protective hairstyle plays a major role in retaining length, reducing breakage, knots, and also tangles, and also thinning on your hair. So make sure that when you're doing your protective hairstyle, you're picking the right one, and make sure that whatever extensions you want to add to your hair is lightweight or adding no extensions at all. My go-to is usually not adding extensions to my hair. When my hair is on a break from a protective hairstyle, there are certain rules I put in place for me not to develop knots, breakage, or thinning on my ends, and it's very important to get breaks from protective hairstyles. One thing I do is make sure that I'm protecting my ends. Your ends are the oldest part of your hair, and if you want to develop any problem, that's where it's going to start. So making sure that I'm tucking in my ends when I'm going to bed or when I'm done for the day, and when I'm doing another protective hairstyle, putting my hair in a high bun and tucking my ends in is very, very important. And that's the end of this video. I really hope this video was helpful because you guys requested more videos in regards to fine hair and how to care for it. I have so many other things to talk about fine hair because I've learned so much when it comes to understanding my hair type and how to actually grow it. If you want more of these type of videos, let me know in the comment section. And also, if you have any other questions regarding to things I've mentioned or any other issues you're facing, make sure to leave that in the comment section. And also, if you want to see any type of videos from me, make sure that you leave that because this was also a recommended video. So make sure you leave your recommendations of what you want to see, and I'll be happy to do that. So yeah, that's the end of this one. Don't forget to subscribe to get the updates on my 3 month hair growth challenge, and I'll see you guys in my next one. Thank you so much for watching. Love you guys, and bye.